Welcome, everyone. It's been a bit of a long journey, but thanks to you, we're here today. 3 of Sheila's favorite quotations. Helen Keller wrote, "This is a time for loud voices, open souls, fearless thinking. I rejoice that I live in splendidly disturbing times." From poet Adrienne Rich, politics is imagination, or it is a treadmill, disintegrative, stifling, finally brutalizing, or ineffectual. There is a happiness in imagination, in creation, that is not without its own pain and struggle, a sensation that feels sometimes buoyant and sometimes earthbound, sometimes like lighting fires in snow, sometimes like untying knots in which you have been bound. New questions, new problems of strategy, of shape, of materials, and yes, of purpose, unfold even as you unlock present difficulties. There is a happiness in finding what will work simultaneously with the discovery of what it works for. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. preached, "Power without love is reckless and abusive. Power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice. And justice at its best is power correcting everything that stands against love." Applause for Dr. King, Adrienne Rich, Helen Keller. Now I'd like to introduce our Master of Ceremonies. On Los Angeles City Council, he led a dramatic revitalization of the 13th Council District. Now his Back to Basics agenda is making all of Los Angeles more livable. He takes a collaborative and regional approach to all issues, and he has a special gift for leading public ceremonies because he brings the touch of an artist to all he does. Please welcome the 42nd Mayor of the City of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti.
That was awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Torie, and thank you for the kind introduction. Good morning. How's everybody doing? You excited? Are you inspired? Well, this is an electrifying room. Thank you all so much on behalf of Supervisor-elect, soon-to-be Supervisor Sheila Kuehl, and her entire entourage that is here. You are part of that entourage, so welcome. One of the great benefits of having Sheila in office, though, is getting Torie as part of the package, and I want to thank Torie for her years of experience. I know, as a senior advisor, your public and private experiences will inform and move this county forward, too, and we're so lucky to get the package deal. Before we move on with the program, I want to take a moment to acknowledge our current supervisor from the 3rd District, our friend Zev Yaroslavsky. Zev taught me so much. Never wear a hard hat at a ribbon cutting. He said, "You look like Dukakis in a tank." Make sure you always go last when speaking, and quote Winston Churchill, who said, "Everything that needs to be said has been said, but it hasn't been said by everybody, so here I am." And he's been a mentor, a friend, and for those of you who might know a little detail about Amy and me, our rabbi, because he married us. But for the last 20 years, Zev, you have moved our county forward, helping establish Los Angeles as the creative capital of the world that it is today, saving our open space and our trauma centers, keeping our county fiscally strong, and there's been no better partner on transportation, I know, for the city of Los Angeles and for the entire county than Zev Yaroslavsky. Give him one more round of applause and thank him for his service. When Sheila called and asked if I would MC her inauguration, it was an amazing honor. And I want to thank you, Sheila, personally, for this treat. You cannot be an Angelino, you cannot be a Californian, you can't be a progressive anywhere in this world and not know about Sheila Kuehl. She defines what it means to be a progressive. You know, being a progressive isn't just some posts on the political spectrum. It is about movement, momentum, forward motion. And Sheila Kuehl defines that. She has been able to define that this is a time in which progress must come and will come and continue to come to this county, the greatest county anywhere on the face of the earth. But we all know Sheila's biography. We know how talented she is. We know how smart she is. Elected smartest, most effective legislator, 171 pieces of legislation as a state legislator, I think a record that still stands today. But you know, Amy and I were talking, and Amy, I think, hit the nail on the head when she said, Sheila, you are the most thorough elected official we know. You do not jump into an issue without getting to know it first well. So that when the people you represent know that you step forward on an issue, they know that you are stepping forward as an informed warrior, ready to bring the coalition together to actually make things happen. That is what the supervisor of the 3rd District will be all about with Sheila Kuehl. Whether it's promoting universal health care, protecting the environment, changing the law to allow women an equal place in society, or making sure that we have true equality for all LGBT members. You were the first open elected member of our state legislature. And today you make history again. You stand up for all of us, Sheila, and you're practical. You get the job done. So I'm excited for the next 4 years. I'm excited to work with you. Thank you for modeling what I am like a broken record about, which is that we are one team. We are one Los Angeles. You might live in Calabasas and work in Los Angeles. You might live in Los Angeles and surf in Malibu. We are one county. This is a place that we have to work together, and I know that you're going to be an amazing leader on the MTA as well as in this county too. So with that, we have some tremendous speakers who have come here today to say a few good words, starting first with my dear friend, Karen Bass. Prior to serving in elected office, we all know that Congresswoman Bass founded the Community Coalition. She defined what grassroots activism and coalition building in this county was all about. It's a South LA social justice organization. It's rooted in the belief that empowers residents to become involved in making a difference. Now serving her 2nd term in Congress, and wow, what she's done in just 2 terms in a very tough environment. She's been an outspoken advocate for balanced fiscal policies and working families. She made history as the first African-American woman to serve as Speaker of the California State Assembly, where her strong leadership navigated the state through some of the toughest economic times that we have seen. A champion of our most disempowered, including our foster youth, making social change here in her community and abroad. Please give a warm welcome to our good friend, Congresswoman Karen Bass.
Good morning, everyone. This is a very exciting day in our county. I don't remember exactly when I met Sheila Kuehl, but what I do remember is her encouraging me to run for state assembly. Frankly, when running for office was the last thing on my mind. However, when I saw the light, Sheila was one of the first elected officials I contacted, and I asked her, frankly, tell me why again would anyone want to serve in the state legislature? Of course, she told me we needed more women in the legislature, but Sheila also very patiently, you know, Sheila's very patient, very seriously talked to me about the issues I'd been working on at Community Coalition and reminded me how both of us were concerned about the same issues, and that if I won the election and went to Sacramento with a clear agenda that matched my values, that I could get a lot done. Well, I did more than listen to her advice. I spent time looking up her legislative record and saw, of course, that her record was a complete reflection of her values. When I served with Sheila, I watched her lead the fight for health care reform because she believed deeply that the richest country on the planet should be able to guarantee health care for all. And she was bold enough to lead that effort and get it on the governor's desk twice. And this was years before the national debate around Obamacare. So in preparation for my comments today, I looked back at her record and I thought I'd give you all some examples of bills she authored that were signed by the governor. But she passed so many bills, and our mayor just made reference to that I exhausted myself trying to review them all. So I thought I would simply make the point that you can look at her body of work over 14 years and see how she passed multiple bills in each of the following categories: for equal rights, public safety, environmental justice, criminal justice reform, child welfare reform, and against domestic violence. The totality of her legislative record reflects an individual tirelessly committed to fighting for social justice. Right after Sheila termed out of the legislature 6 years ago, I remember asking her, "So what do you plan to do next?" And she said she had her eyes fixed on one prize and one prize only, and that was to run for the Board of Supervisors when the seat became available. Now, you know, in the world and culture of politics, many people would have looked for another office to run for in the meantime. But she didn't do that. Sheila took a major gamble by not running for another office for 6 years, when she certainly had the opportunity to do so. But instead, she chose to keep her eyes on the prize she truly wanted and to use her time to prepare to run and to actually learn about the office. Novel concept. I believe the gamble she took was indicative of the values and commitment that she brings to this office. During the time I had the opportunity to serve with Sheila, I certainly knew there were people who disagreed with some of her politics, but I never met anyone who found her disagreeable. I had the opportunity to watch her in action, and no surprise, Sheila was uniformly respected by all of her colleagues on both sides of the aisle. And although she was a tough and focused negotiator, she fought for her viewpoint without burning bridges or destroying relationships. She kept her eyes on the prize, which was always about whatever policy she was working on, and was never about promoting herself or accumulating power for the sake of power. Sheila was a standout and stand-up legislator in Sacramento, and I have no doubt that she will bring the same values, personal charm, deep knowledge of policy, and the ability to play well with others to the Board of Supervisors. And so Los Angeles is losing a giant, losing him now just from office, this isn't a eulogy, a giant who will leave this seat and this county in a better place, but we're gaining a new leader who I know will make Zev and all of us proud for the work, and I am confident that she will accomplish. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Karen. Now, the next speaker was very exacting in what he wanted his introduction to be. It was just that he's the 41st mayor of the city of Los Angeles. So there are things I could say, like that he's a friend and a brother, but I won't. I could say he's been an amazing ex-mayor, giving me great advice and mentoring me, but I won't. And I could say things like he has been himself a great progressive trailblazer and done amazing things to make this a more just and equal city and society. But I won't. So here's the 41st mayor of the city of Los Angeles, Antonio Villaraigosa.
What he just demonstrated is that when you're the mayor, you get to do what you want. Thank you for that, Mayor Garcetti. That was very kind and generous. I want to have you all just look around the room for a second. Many of you, I know, I've worked with, many of you have known Sheila for decades. Some of you have worked with her for 10 years and more. All of you have a great deal of respect for her. And it reminds me of a saying in Spanish that we say, dígame con quién andas y te diré quién eres. Tell me who you walk with and I'll tell you who you are. You walk with great people and they walk with you. And I couldn't be more honored to be here today because I have been a brother, a friend, and a supporter of Sheila Kuehl since 1994. I remember the day when she walked into the caucus, and if you know the Democrats, they're the Latino caucus and the Women's Caucus and the African American caucus and the Environmental Caucus and the Labor Caucus, and there's caucuses for everybody. But she was the first openly gay and lesbian woman to get elected, and there was no caucus for her. So she asked me and Kevin Murray to join that caucus. And we did. Now, some of you know that she went on to become the Speaker Pro Tem under Cruz Bustamante, the first Latino speaker in more than 100 years. She was also my Speaker Pro Tem when I was Speaker. And I remember many, many fights, and we were very proud that during that era we passed the toughest gun legislation, gun laws in the country, the first anti-discrimination bill against gays and lesbians, and the list goes on in terms of what we were able to do. But whenever we had a tough issue, whenever there was something that needed a brilliant advocate to stand up and speak with conviction and passion and intelligence, I'd always walk up to Sheila. Sometimes she had prepared for that talk. Sometimes she just had to walk from the dais to her desk and get up. And whenever she did, the room was quiet. Even no matter how controversial the issue, the room was quiet. You could hear a pin drop. And you could, because people knew that they were watching the best of what the legislature had to offer. Someone with conviction, intelligence, passion. And I did that so often that it almost felt like I was picking on her. Because when you have to get up on a tough issue, particularly if the issue, you're not the author of the bill, it's not easy. But she did it again and again and again. But in the 6 years that I worked with Sheila, the one issue that I remember the most was her bill, the Dignity for All Students. An anti-discrimination bill in our schools for the LGBT students, for young students who were discriminated against. And I'll never forget how hard she worked, how passionate she was about that issue. And because we had a very solid majority, we never lost a bill until that night when she got up on this one and we weren't able to get the votes that we needed. And I remember seeing the pain in her eyes. She was shaking. I'll always remember that day. We hugged each other, she cried, and we said, we will be back. 2 months later, we were back. We passed that bill. Because of her, kids in LA Unified can go to school and not be discriminated against. Kids all over the state. When I think about Sheila Kuehl, I think about those times. We are very, very lucky. And as was said, she's got big shoes to fill because those of us who know Zev Yaroslavsky knows he's got a big, big persona and record to match. But I'll tell you something. If anyone's going to do it, it's going to be Sheila Kuehl. You know, people oftentimes call each other brother and sister, and sometimes to the point of cliche. But she really is my sister. I can tell you that throughout the years, we've been in every fight since 1994. There has never been a time when she or I have been in a fight where she wasn't standing right alongside of me or me right alongside of her. When you have her on your side, you know you have an advantage because Sheila is cut from a different cloth. She really is. Her conviction, her integrity really set her apart. Her intelligence, her brilliance, her ability to articulate tough issues, but also her compassion. Sheila has a big, giant, beating heart. And that's why we love her so much. So I just want to say to Sheila, I also was one, like my good friend Karen, the Congresswoman, who when you told me that it was going to be 6 years, I'd wanted her to run for city council. I wanted to get behind her. I wanted her on the team. But when she said, no, this is what I want to do. This is the only thing I want to do. These issues make me passionate and make me want to make the change that I think I could do. I actually thought, you know, how do you do this 6 years down the line? Well, she did. And she did because of you. And she's the first one to say that. She did because people have never forgotten Sheila Kuehl and what she stands for. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for believing in you. And most importantly, thank you for what you've done for our city, our state, and now our county. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Well, after nearly 40 years as an elected official, for the last 29 minutes, Zev Yaroslavsky has been enjoying his temporary retirement. And I want to thank him again for the incredible service he has given the city and the great transition that I know has been underway since the election. Please welcome as our final speaker, the former supervisor of the 3rd District, Zev Yaroslavsky.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I appreciate the standing ovations very much because this morning when I drove myself to the, as I always do, by the way, make that clear, to the credit union, the person behind the desk asked for my identification, looked at my name and looked at my picture, and said, "You look familiar." By the way, that's the city credit union. So the day got off to a rocky start, but this will put that in the rearview mirror for at least for a couple of hours. Well, they call the supervisors the 5 kings and queens, so I guess it would be appropriate for me to say today, the king is dead, long live the queen. Don't read anything more into that than it's an old quote. I think it's safe to say that there's never been anyone who has been better prepared to take the oath of office for LA County Supervisor than the person that we are going to swear in momentarily. Sheila has not only a wealth of experience as a legislator, but more important is the experience she's had as a person. From her early days I don't know all the way back to the early days, but she came to my attention when she was Zelda on the Dobie Gillis show. I say that because I had a crush on her. I said this the other day. For obvious reasons, it didn't work out, but I continue to surround myself with strong, smart, assertive women. And but her experience in life has prepared her for this job, because the County Board of Supervisors is not about power. It has a lot of power, and it means something if one uses it judiciously. And I think we can all be confident that Sheila Kuehl will use the power and authority that she has in this office judiciously for the people who need her voice and her help in her hand most. I've been asked for many weeks now, what advice would you give your successor? I said, she doesn't need my advice, and she really doesn't. But I want to just share a couple of thoughts, what I've learned over my years as an elected official, and hope that it will resonate with Sheila, her staff, and all of us who serve in one capacity or another in this community of ours. The first is a John Wooden quote, which I've used often: don't confuse activity for achievement. You have 12 years, Sheila, to get the job done, and you will do that, and you will get more done if you are able to differentiate between activity and real product out the door. Victories are not counted in votes, they're counted in how we impact the lives of the citizens we serve. As Jackie Robinson said, a life is only important as so much as it has an impact on other people's lives. This job offers, more than any other that I know of, an opportunity to directly impact people's lives. Secondly, and I know that Sheila and I talked about Barbara Tuchman and her book, The March of Folly. That has been my Bible, and it's a good Bible, non-sectarian Bible to follow. She defined folly as a perverse persistence in a policy that is demonstrably unworkable and counterproductive. And there is no shame in being on one course, figuring out that you're on the wrong course, and then changing course. It's a lot easier to do that than to go off the cliff and then try to explain how that happened. And if one follows that admonition from Barbara Tuchman, you'll avoid a lot of mistakes, self-inflicted errors, and you'll get a lot more done. The other thing, the last thing I want to say is, this job is not about sitting behind the desk. It's not about statistics and numbers. It's about people. And I know that Sheila, just from my work with her over the years, we overlapped in the same jurisdiction, so I saw what she did. She walked a mile in other people's shoes. She felt, to use the old Bill Clinton line, she felt the other person's pain, frustrations, and aspirations. And that's what this job requires, is that kind of personal engagement, that eyeball-to-eyeball contact. In that way, justice will be done. And so I quote from a historian who was around about 2,500 years before any of us were, the Greek historian Thucydides, who said, "There will be justice in Athens when those who are not injured are as outraged as those who are." And I don't think there is any doubt in anybody's mind that given Sheila's background, her experience, her patience and perseverance, and now her readiness to assume this job, that she will, when necessary, be as outraged as those she serves. They say they're big shoes to fill. My shoes aren't that big. And her feet are a lot bigger than you may think they are. Sheila will forge her own trail and make her own footprints. I couldn't be happier for her, for the county, and for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Zev, and I'm sorry that didn't work out for you, your childhood crush, but And now, the moment we've all been waiting for, the swearing in of the new supervisor of the 3rd District. And doing the honors will be the new supervisor's sister, the Honorable Geraldine Borak, who's judge of the Superior Court in the County of Los Angeles. Please welcome her forward. Sorry, Sacramento. Thank you. The County of Sacramento, though we'd love to have her down here if anybody wants to change that. Geraldine Borak, thank you.
Please raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Sheila Kuehl,
During such times as I hold the office
during such times as I hold the office
of Supervisor, 3rd District
of Supervisor, 3rd District
of the County of Los Angeles,
of the County of Los Angeles,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely,
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. I'm sworn in! Thank you.
I have to interrupt you because we have to
Oh, I must sign the oath of office.
you sign first.
I sign first. Signature of sworn person.
Signature of
That would be me.
You can read that without your glasses.
I don't know where my glasses are.
Do you want mine?
No. Now you sign.
All right. I'm shaking too much.
Me too.
All right. Another hug?
Another hug. Thank you, Julie. My sister. Well, a funny thing happened to me on the way to an acting career. Or as Shakespeare wrote, there is a destiny that shapes our ends, rough hew them as we may. And if by destiny he meant all those moments, all those people, all those happy accidents that shape our lives, then this amazing gathering of people is the embodiment of those shaping forces. You are here, associated with every aspect of my life, every formative moment, as well as the moments to come. And overwhelmingly, what I feel today is gratitude. I want to say thank you first to my new colleagues who have not actually been introduced, but need no introduction. Our mayor, Mike Antonovich. Supervisor Don Kanabi. Supervisor Mark Ridley Thomas. And forever supervisor, I don't care what they say, Gloria Molina. With no offense to Hilda, of course. I want to thank Antonio, who is indeed my brother, my speaker, my mayor, and, may I say it again, my brother, from our very first moments in the Assembly. Antonio's vision of inclusion, of how to share success, of how to move dynamically forward, a product of at least one movement, if not more, that dynamism, that hope, that freshness that he brought and brings to everything he does. Please thank my brother, Antonio Villaraigosa. My thanks to Karen, my friend, my colleague. She likes to pretend that I was a mentor, but if you were with her when she put together the Community Coalition, made that happen, made neighborhoods proud, made neighborhood feel like they had some power, then you know who was the mentor and who was the mentee in this relationship. And as Speaker, her vision that every child should be safe, should be allowed to grow, every family should have a chance. An amazing speaker, an amazing member of Congress. Please thank Karen Bass. I want to thank our current mayor, the 42nd mayor of the city of Los Angeles, who is actually a new friend. By new, I mean in the last decade, who is also a man of vision. He talks about back to basics, and everyone thinks, well, back to basics, that sounds kind of dull. But if you've ever done the basics in anything, you know that it's not dull, that it's exciting and dangerous and necessary. Also a man of vision. Please thank our mayor, Eric Garcetti. My thanks to Zev, who, though he made a joke about my feet, I have to say, he is the keeper of the shoes too big to fill. Really, it's been a long, fabulous career, and frankly, I can tell you, since I just had 6 years out, you're just getting started doing the things you're going to really love to do, as a teacher, as a writer, but as a city council member and a member of this body, his vision, rationality, courage, solvency, cultural opportunity. He was and is a symbol of what you can actually achieve when you take your responsibility seriously and act and move forward with it. Please thank Zev Yaroslavsky. I want to thank my sister, Jerry Borak. When we were little, she was my little sister. And then when we sort of got into our 30s, we discovered that it sort of evened out. And now it sort of switches back and forth as to who's the big and who's the little sister. She is a judge in Dependency Court in Sacramento. Dependency Court, most of you know, is where the children who are either in our foster care system, who may be in our foster care system, who may be reunited with their families, where their lives get sorted out, as well as happy adoption days as well. She has taught me so much. You don't get an opportunity to say publicly what your sister has taught you, so I really want to. The way that she has volunteered through her entire judicial career, and even before that as an attorney, to take on the tough cases, to work with families, to care for children, to worry about how the world is put together at the very basic level of our homes. She's taught me so much, especially about our foster kids and those that we hope will not become foster kids and their families. Please thank my sister, Geraldine Borak. And then I want to thank Torie Osborn, my most important friend, my chosen family. a movement builder, a woman of vision. I want you to notice the people in the audience all nodding when I say these things, Torie, because so many of them have come to me because they worked with you, because they knew you. Torie and I have been friends since 1982. We have been, I think, closer than family, and I could not have done most of the things that I did in the legislature, running for this seat, and certainly as the future goes forward, without the vision, without the understanding of movement and collaboration, without the understanding of coalition that Torie brings to everything she does. Please thank my best friend in the universe, Torie Osborn. And I look out here and I see all of you who have deeply impacted my thinking, my heart, my ability to do anything, my weekends where I needed to rest, my work week where I didn't need to rest and you didn't let me. So many products of so many movements, of so much important work, of so much caring for each other, for the city, for the county, for the state, and for America. I have been shaped by my parents, my family, my education, my friends, my colleagues, my work, and by some of the most important movements in America over the course of my lifetime. My mother, a Russian Jew, was the first born in America in her family. My father, a German Catholic from, oh yeah, see? We thought Judeo-Christian was all one word. My father, a German Catholic from a working class family. So you can see strains of conflict reconciled in me. This is one of the themes, really, of my life. I went to public schools, LA Unified. Okay. You can applaud, but that's where I lived, you know. I mean, we lived by the Coliseum. I went to Normandy Avenue Elementary School. We moved to the Crenshaw District. I went to Audubon and Dorsey. Anybody here from Dorsey or Audubon? All right. Just a few of us. But at the same time, of course, I was going to studio school. I had an acting career. And it was a very important and interesting, different set of conflict reconciled in me. Because when you're in a working class neighborhood and you're going to public schools, and then you're a TV actor, there's a lot of privilege and class in working even in early days in television. And that was another thing that came together. I have to say, I really sort of liked growing up poorer because it's easier to be with poor people and rich people. I always felt sorry for people growing up rich because they had to learn so much more about how to be with poor people. Now, I hope I don't offend anyone by that, but listen, I don't have applause lines, so I know they'll go, what did she mean by that? I was the first in my family to go to college. I went to UCLA when you could still afford to go there. And I have to say UCLA shaped me in some very profound ways. First of all, studying literature gives you the ability to dream a different world. The fact that I combined it with science fiction, of course, also helped. But it was a place almost like a cathedral to me, where you just look in the schedule of classes and think, what is it I want to know next? What is it I want to see and learn next? And it was amazing, because as I said, you could afford to go there. I hope that we will be able to return to a more affordable set of university and college classes. Then there were experiences that further opened my eyes. Before my acting career fell apart, I had the privilege of going on a junket, a television series junket, to Birmingham, Alabama in 1963. Okay, everybody else was there for a very different reason. But we got on a plane, you know, doody-doody-doo, we're going down to the Alabama State Fair. We stayed at the Dinkwyler Hotel. And my colleague, may his soul rest in peace, Bob Denver, got into a terrible fight in an elevator because some of the guys in the elevator were insulting the African-American woman who ran the elevator, and he asked them to stop. And by the time we got to the 6th floor, he had bloody nose and black eye, and I had no idea. It was a very difficult time for America in the early 60s, but it was one of the most hopeful and promising times as well. And though I was tangentially there, it shaped me just seeing that there were Americans who were ordered to step down off the sidewalk into the street because of their color if a white person was on the sidewalk. And when I came home, I can't say that I suddenly was a leader in doing anything, because that's really sort of been the story of my life. I've learned so much from others. After my acting career fell apart, I had another experience. I was able to go to Vietnam with the USO. Now, I had no talent. I was just an actor, but we went on a handshake tour. And handshake tours mean you're not putting on those shows. What you're doing is talking to 10,000 men, and it was all men in the Army then, and the Air Force and Marines, and we would go and talk to them wherever they were, in the hooches, in the hospitals, wherever they were. And I talked to 10,000 men, because you have to keep track, because the Army pays the USO by how many people you talk to. And I learned that war was not a glorious thing, that it was ugly, that it was, in the minds of many of the men who were there, meaningless. And when I came back, I had learned another lesson, which was you need to distinguish between those things that are told to you that are true and those things that you may doubt. It's not good to doubt everything. It's not good to believe everything. And so I learned, when my acting career fell apart, that things that we may think of as failures are actually just destiny tapping you on another shoulder. So I went back to UCLA, which is what I have done every time I failed at anything, begged a job in 1969. Oh, 1969 at UCLA. The middle of the student revolution. I feel like Forrest Gump sometimes, you know what I mean? I'm in Birmingham in '63, I'm going to Vietnam, you know. And it really was sort of like that, because sometimes we do shape our own moves, and sometimes somebody says, hey, would you like to? And all you've got to do is say yes. That actually has been my talent. I could say yes when I got tapped on the shoulder. So here I am at UCLA in the middle of the student revolution, and like many of us who were associate deans of students, who were professors, I learned more from my students and was shaped by them more than they from me, by my students working for civil rights, by my students in the anti-war movement, by my students in the women's movement, and even then in the fledgling LGBT movement. It gave me a thirst for equality, kind of by osmosis. That's probably a water image that doesn't go together, but I learned from them that it's necessary to identify the fact that there's not fairness and justice in the world, and then just not sit down and say, oh, that's terrible, but to do something about it. And it was a world that didn't want to recognize that anything was unfair. Everything had to be struggled for. And my students talked me into going to law school. So I applied to UCLA and I was turned down. So I had to go to Harvard. It's Forrest Gump, I'm telling you. And what I learned at law school is that there are no secrets about doing things. Because everywhere I went, I thought, well, maybe they know more than I do about doing that. And for a moment, they do. But then you discover, at least I did, if they can do it, I can do it. And Harvard was a wonderful lesson for me. Another lesson in a mixture of classes, and I don't mean the classes you take for grades, and what can be done. Because Harvard Law didn't care if you were left wing or right wing. You just get the tools and you go fight for whatever you want to fight for. Get a perch and learn. You can learn all the tools. So I came home and I was drawn into the fledgling movement to recognize, create law about, and do something about domestic violence. And in helping to craft some of that legislation, I went to Sacramento to testify, and I immediately got member envy. Not the kind you're thinking. I wanted to serve. I wanted to be an assembly member, not just sit there and wait for somebody to allow me to speak. No, I liked it up there on the dais with the kings and queens. And so I did run. And as Antonio told you, I was elected in '94, same year he was, and to the legislature with a fabulous crew and my staff in Sacramento and down here, and a chance to make change, to take the reins of a state, to learn to dream practically and on a grand, achievable scale. And that brings me to this moment. After a 2-year job interview, overseen by very talented people, and with all of your help, it brought together this amazing coalition on which we build. In this unique, this sprawling county, speaks hundreds of languages and dialects that encompasses the richest and the poorest in America. To have the chance to assemble an outstanding team, to work as change agents through connection, through collaboration. People say to me, what's your agenda? Okay, here's my agenda. I want children, every child in the county, actually more, but we'll just start with the county. I want them to be safe. I want them to be healthy. I want them to be educated. I want them to be able, without barrier, to fulfill their potential. That is a big job for the county. I want us to be connected from one end of the county to the other. I want you to be able to live wherever you want to live, that you can afford. I want you to work wherever you want to work. I want you to come down here and see a play, or Dudamel, or whoever, wherever you want to enjoy art, culture, food. I want you to be able to hop on a train, hop on a bus, hop on your bike, walk. I don't care what it is. It's not a war between bikes and cars and trains and buses. It's a system. And that's what we're going to make. I don't want there to be any more homeless people. And you're thinking, okay, those are lovely dreams. But you know, they're not dreams. Because more and more people who were without homes last year got a home. Not enough. Always need more. But I want to house homeless people with services so that they can stay housed. Now supposing you're not homeless. Supposing you have a family but you need affordable housing. Yeah, we're going to do that too. Affordable housing means affordable housing. I certainly want working families in this county to get a fair shake, to be able to earn enough money, like in the old days, where we used to be able to dream about buying a house, where we used to be able to dream about shopping and finding and, you know, seeing what we needed. And I want our working families, not only those who work for the county, but also those who work in the county, to be able to achieve a dignified living and be able to maintain it. And that I want to work for as well. Two more things. I want to continue to bring in and keep mountains, ocean, shores, rivers, riverbanks, parks, for all of us. We brought in quite a bit of land into the public domain. There must be more. There must be more to be preserved. Why? Because we've got to breathe. And that's how you breathe. In your parks, in the wilderness, in the Santa Monica Mountains, in wherever we can go for our recreation. So I want to continue Zev's legacy to bring more and more land and usable land into our public domain. Finally, health. Health is an interesting concept. People think health is something that you go to a doctor and perhaps you'll achieve. Or maybe, if you combine mental health and physical health, perhaps we'll be able to be a whole, healthy person. I think it's bigger than that. I think a society has an aspect of health to it. And in a healthy society, individual members can also be healthy. Now, that doesn't mean we don't need a very good health system, a very good mental health system, very good public health system. That's something I know a little bit about, and I want to work with all the people working in the county to make certain that we can expand the system, that we can improve the system, and since we're a part of the exchange, that we're going to get everybody to sign up for our system. It's a dream, but I'm going to work for it. So, just a little agenda. But, you know, Forrest Gump didn't know how to say no to things, and in a way, I don't either. For today, I just want to say I have learned from, and I've been shaped by our mutual history. We have lived in some very amazing times. Most of the major civil rights movements of the modern age have occurred during our lifetimes. We have each learned from the other, in turn, and roundabout again in turn. I've been shaped by history, by these movements, by friends, by family, by colleagues, by work, and by my own restless spirit and thirst for justice, which I have learned all along the way. I've been blessed by all of the above. Tomorrow, it all begins. For now, if you've reserved, there's lunch to eat, hugs to give. I look forward to all of it and more. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you all again so much for joining us. If you didn't catch that last line, if you have reserved, please join us for lunch. Everybody else, thank you so much for coming here. We really appreciate you being here, and here's to the work ahead. Congratulations, Supervisor Kuehl. Thank you.